Okay, I'm starting the recording, and today we will be talking about how to teach literature in English. I've just already told you that I'm recording you, so be aware of this. And today we'll start with the brief revision. We'll go through the book genres that some of you have looked through. Then we'll understand how to talk about books, how to look at the books when we talk about them. Then we'll briefly go through the history of England, and we'll try to connect genres with the English history. And next time when I meet you, I hope that you will tell me more about book genres, like different books that you would like to talk about. So, but briefly, what is clear? I'm not asking Tanya, she knows it. Masha, come on.
So it's content and language integrated learning, and like if briefly, the focus is not on the language, but are something else. Yeah, so it can be science, it can be
content.
Yeah. So and language is only the tool. It's like the
perfect. Yeah. So actually, we use language as a tool for learning and teaching the content. So there are the 4 principles, and today actually we'll be following a couple of them. We'll be talking about content and about culture. So everything else is during the lesson: communication and how you develop your student thinking skills. Okay, so and we start with this very simple schema, but maybe it's not that simple. I also own language schools, and in my schools, we usually do this table with the kids of the 6th grade. So I'm sure that the 6th graders will easily do it. So let's look at the map and understand what are the main genres, subgenres, what are the elements of each genre, and what the main division into the genres is. So, okay, Ira Savchenko, come on. What are the main genres?
Okay. So, good evening. I'm so sorry because I had a little baby.
No, it's okay. It's okay. You can see it here. Yeah? You can read it here.
Poetry.
Yeah.
Poetry.
Nothing possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see that they are fiction.
It's
then.
Fiction, non-fiction. Yeah. I remember some information from the university.
Yeah, they are fiction.
And I try to recollect my memories.
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You just use this visual as a support. Yeah, and it's you understand that the division into genres is very like, so it differs in different cultures. We're taking here the British and the American division into genres, yeah? And you see that there is a genre, and each genre is divided into the subgenres. Yeah? So there is fiction, and fiction is divided into realistic fiction, historical fiction, science fiction, and fantasy. Yeah? So then, Tanya, there is folklore, and folklore is divided into
fairy tale, myth, legend, tall tale, and fabric.
Yeah, so these are the main folklore subgenres. Also, we can talk about drama. That is divided into comedy and tragedy. Poetry, that is divided into verse, a small type of poem and longer poems and non-fiction writing. So what is the focus or what do we focus at when we teach at school? We actually focus at this part. Yeah? So we talk about fiction, we talk about folklore, and sometimes we may do drama and poetry. Each of these genres has the elements such as theme, characters, setting, and special detail. Could you please make a sentence about realistic fiction using this table? Imagine you give it to your kids and you ask your kids, what is realistic fiction? Who can tell me what realistic fiction is?
So probably
I can have it.
Okay, Ira Korenfeld, yeah? Yeah, come on.
Right, thanks. So realistic fiction is usually about real life events. The characters are normally people that could exist. The action is usually set, it can be set anywhere. And as to some special details, it could be true, but actually it's not.
Very good, perfect. And we can add here that realistic fiction is...
Okay, it's a subgenre of fiction.
Is a subgenre of fiction. Yeah, so, okay, yeah. Now let's look at this table. Now I will tell you the element and you will try to guess what literary genre it is. Yeah? So this literary genre contains humorous exaggeration.
It can be folklore tale.
So it's a tall
tale.
Yeah, good. And what is a tall tale actually? Ira Gerasimova, come on, continue.
Tall tale is a subgenre of folklore. And theme is helping the needy. What about characters? They are people with exaggerated skills, size, or maybe strengths. Settings can be anywhere. And special details, you said humorous exaggeration.
Yeah, so, and usually it's a humorous exaggeration. Tall tales were really born in the US during the frontier times when they were settling the frontier. Okay, yeah, so now my other, here is another task. What is the genre of, what is the literary genre that is based on technology?
Science fiction.
Perfect. And what is the difference between science fiction and fantasy?
Science fiction is technology. And fantasy, it's just some creatures. Magicians, creatures, I don't know, monsters, wizards, etc.
Yeah, and what is common? What do they have in common?
They are not real. They just made up by the authors.
Very good. So the worlds are unreal and the characters are unreal. Yeah. So this is that makes them, that connects them. So what have I been just doing? What have I done? What was I doing? Masha, a non-member of TESOL. What did I do right now?
Brainstorming.
No. What was I doing?
I would say rebrushing a little bit. Yeah. So it was a task, and to make sure that we are on the same page, both those who read it at home, yeah, and those who didn't, to make us equal.
Very good. And what was I using for this?
Elicitation.
But also Bloom's taxonomy. Like, I hope that you noticed that all the questions were based on Bloom's taxonomy. We started with your knowledge when you had to just explain what the genres and the subgenres you know. Then we tried to describe one's genre. Yeah. So then we tried to think of comparison, what is common, what is different, and we also use cause and effect, like this is a story, where, so, and so on and so forth. You may use all these tools, like all these questions from Bloom's taxonomy, use when you talk about literary genres, and you may use this map very often, like every year when you go back to the books, because this is how your students will develop the understanding of genres. You can compare them using the characters, the themes, the setting, the main genre, the subgenres, like lots and lots of thinking operations. They are here when we talk about literary genres. Okay, now a very short quiz. So all literary genres are divided into how many groups? Who remembers?
9. 9 groups.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
5.
So they are divided into 5 groups. Yeah. Okay. So writing that is true.
Non-fiction.
Perfect. Imaginative or made-up writing.
Fiction.
Stories once passed down orally.
Folklore.
Good. Play or script.
Okay, it's drama.
Good. And writing concerned with the beauty of language.
Poetry.
Very good. Yeah. So come on. Non-fiction subgenres tries to influence the reader. I know that we didn't review it, but I hope you will remember. Tries to influence the reader.
Persuasive writing.
Good.
Probably.
It tries to persuade, and when we persuade, we usually use this type of writing in advertisements, speeches, business letters, and so on and so forth. Good. Explain something.
It could be informational writing.
Absolutely, absolutely. It explains. Life story written by oneself.
Biography, probably.
By oneself.
Oh, autobiography.
Autobiography, we need this author, and we can explain that author means self. Yeah? And writing about somebody else's life is
Biography.
perfect. This is a biography. Fiction subgenres, set in the past and based on real people or events.
Historical fiction, probably.
Absolutely, absolutely. Historical fiction is the writing where there are a couple of imaginary people, but they could have existed, and also the people that really existed. For example, Winston Churchill and the family in London during the Second World War. Like this. Okay. Has aliens, robots, futuristic technology?
Science fiction.
Science fiction. No elements of fantasy. Could be true, but isn't.
It's realistic fiction.
Yeah, that's just fiction. And monsters, magic, or characters with
Fantasy.
superpowers. Fantasy. Good. So, and last test. So, short story with personified animals and the moral.
Personification.
A short story with personified.
Fable.
It's a fable.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, goddesses, and accounts for the creation.
Myth.
Yeah. So main character strengths or skills are exaggerated, and we learn that they may be humorously exaggerated.
Tall
Tale.
Tall tale.
Like, yeah, so tall tales are about very strong,
Mhm.
like Katygoroshka. So based on a real person or place, facts are stretched beyond, I don't see beyond
Legend.
non-fiction.
Legend, yeah.
About Kishak and Harif, like these people probably existed. And there is serious exaggeration here. Has magic and talking animals, starts with once upon a time.
Fairy tale.
Fairy tale.
Yeah. And here we can, when we go back to folklore, we see that here there can be lots of comparisons as well. Could you please tell me what can we compare here?
In fairy tales.
Like fairy tale and to what?
Well, actually, we can compare subgenres inside their group.
Absolutely, yeah, like fairy tale to a myth or fairy tale to a legend, yeah. But also it's good to compare things that are very comparable, like a legend to a tall tale. So there are so many things in common, but exaggeration is different, and people are different, but there are more common elements than different elements. Good. So these were the genres, and you also could see in this map the effect of the books. And I also gave here the so-called speaking card, which you can use with your students when you describe any book. Just when it comes to the description of a book, to your favorite book, or to the book you have read, or to the book you are dreaming of reading. So that will look like this. You can talk about its title, author, form, poem, story, novel, drama. Yeah, it's already a form. So then you will go to genre and subgenre, then setting, place, characters, plot, and you can also give your opinion what kind of a book it is. It's a page turner, it's gripping, it's readable, it's dull. You see that there is the ranking here. Okay, so that was the warming up, and now we go to a more interesting thing. We'll go through the periods in the history of England, and then we'll go back to the genres, and we'll try to understand how they developed and why we could talk about genres and connect them with the periods in the history of England. So these are the parts of the timeline, and who remembers at least something about the history of England?
Anglo-Saxon invasion, the 15th century.
Yeah, so Anglo-Saxon invasion, and that is when English actually starts as a language. Yeah. So what was before the Anglo-Saxon invasion?
Roman invasion.
Roman invasion. Britain was Romanized. So Celts who lived there were Romanized. So firstly Celts, then Romans. Then the Anglo-Saxon invasion. You see that there were the kingdoms, and this is the time when English started. Good. So after that happens what?
The Vikings.
Yeah. So the Scandinavian invasion or the Vikings. They are often called the Danes. Part of Britain is occupied by them, and this is this part. You know that Ukraine or Kiev Rus was also greatly connected with the Vikings, and this is the time of the Scandinavian invasion. Next is the Norman invasion. What is the Norman invasion about?
That's the period when, sorry.
France.
Uh-huh.
They wanted.
Come on, Sveta,
Three-
I feel you know.
I don't actually remember what
Three
happened, but it was connected with the rule of
You see here.
Anna and Victoria. They were connected, but I don't remember
So,
the timeline.
This is the great period of invasions in the British history, and they all are connected with the English past. At first, this is the Anglo-Saxon invasion. They come from these bleak places in Scandinavia. So then their brothers come back after some years, and they already are called Vikings. Some of the Vikings settled this part in France that is called Normandy. And the Norman invasion was connected with the Normans who came from France to England. And this is the time when French became the dominant language in England, and this is why the English language has so many synonyms and so many French words. That is why we can say to come in and to enter, like lots and lots of words are taken from French, and this is the period of the Norman invasion. But when we look at the Norman invasion, what do we see here? Like I put especially for you, what is this sign here? What's the king, then the vassals, the lords, the knights? What kind of a hierarchy is it? Feudal society. Like Normans brought feudalism to England. So England became a feudal country, and this greatly changed the whole life, because suddenly some people were very rich, lived in castles, some people were very poor, and we'll see how it is connected with history and with literature. So then after the Norman invasion, the long period of Middle Ages starts. It's the dominance of church, the first parliament, medieval towns, and greatly English takes back. English becomes the language of the government. When? What happened? And what allowed English to become the language of the government? Like why is French not the dominant language now in England? Why did they stop speaking French?
Probably because of the war.
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
there
it was
was
the war
100 war.
between France and England. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the 100 years war with France, Jeanne d'Arc, Joan d'Arc, so was one of the heroes of the war, and this is the time when gradually English took back. So English became again the language of the government and the state language, but obviously English was greatly changed because there were so many elements of the French language, and this French dominance lasted for nearly 500 years. Okay, and then modern age. This is the time of the modern age, and what were the main events? Or what does the modern age start with, not only in England, but in Europe?
The
Reformation of church.
Exploration,
so
probably.
This is the Renaissance or Renaissance. So then the Reformation of church and all this thinking that somehow has no connection with the thinking of the Middle Ages. So the thinking changed. There appear lots of new, not only literary works, but also music, art, everything was changing. And this is the modern age. In Britain, the modern age is connected with the Tudors, with Elizabeth I, with Shakespeare, and of course with Henry VIII. Okay, good. So what was then? What was after the Renaissance?
Revolution.
Opa, yeah, very good. And after that, the so-called bourgeois revolution, but it is also called the Puritan Revolution, or there are lots of many words for this revolution. The revolution starts, the king is beheaded, Puritans take the parliament, the civil war starts, and as a result, Oliver Cromwell becomes the king, not the king of England, but he was the Lord Protector. And so what happened then?
Enlightenment.
Yeah, the Enlightenment, it's here. The Enlightenment is already here. It's already coming. But what happened to the government? What happened to the parliament after Cromwell's death?
The creation of the Republic, there was.
So, and after that, the restoration happened. Restoration means the restoration
of the monarchy.
Yeah, the monarchy was restored, but the monarchy was greatly greatly lost its rights. And the constitution, you know that in England there is no constitution, but the laws that were taken by the parliament. So these laws actually restricted the monarchy. And since that time, we already can talk about constitutional monarchy. So monarchy became what we see now. Then the Industrial Revolution, great changes in the world. England becomes the most industrialized country in the world, and the life of people changes greatly. What are the events connected with the Industrial Revolution?
Maybe it's the Victorian age, which influenced all of the British culture.
Very good. The Victorian age is coming, and it's just here. It's our next slide. But also in Britain.
Plus, Industrial Revolution caused a lot of air pollution in London itself.
Absolutely.
So probably it was the first time when people had faced such a problem.
But also, where did the people live at the time? Did they stay in their villages, or did they go to town? Did they go to towns?
You mean urbanization?
Yeah,
urbanization change.
I mean this great shift in the population and this discrepancy between urban population and rural population, when most people started living in cities, and of course great poverty was caused by it. Yeah, so Victorian age is coming. This is already the 19th century. Britain is the biggest colonial empire, and so this is the wealthiest country in the world. The empire, you can see here that the empire is like that the empire is where the sun never sets. You remember this here? So it's just like all over the world, and that is how English became the global language, and that is how English spread all over the world. And so contemporary age, the 20th century, not the happiest time, because lots of unrest. The British Empire starts taking apart. Commonwealth takes over the empire. So many countries want to be independent. 2 world wars greatly affect Britain. And only Margaret Thatcher in the 70s, 80s is able to again bring Britain to the same level that maybe not to the same, but just to rise the level of living in Britain, and lots of events connected with the Commonwealth countries. So now most of them are independent, and finally Brexit. So that was very quickly the history of Great Britain, but not Great Britain, England actually. And now let's see how we can connect it with the development of genres. For me, you know, it was the most amazing moment when I started understanding that literature, it's not only like genres are one story, and literature or history is another story. Actually, they are very connected. And the development of genres, it's not the scheme that we've just seen. It's not this map. Yeah? So the genres developed with the development of human mind, consciousness, of ideas, and so on and so forth. And now I'm presenting to you, this is my idea. And that's what we will be doing in Odessa on the 25th of June. We will be making this huge timeline with different literary works, and these works will represent different genres. But let's look at them. So imagine the Anglo-Saxon invasion happens, and the Germanic tribes who are rather underdeveloped, if I can say so, sorry. Yeah, so what can they produce? What is the literary work that they produced? It's a mess. And so, and why mess is the characteristic production, the characteristic literary work of the time? Why mess? Why not, for example, a novel? Or why not a tragedy? Or why not a poem in 12 books? Or why not a play? Why a mess?
No writing yet.
Yeah. Oh, so why? Why did people need it? Why did they need mess?
Because they needed to believe in something and they didn't know much.
Very good. Perfect. This is the answer. And they needed the answer.
A hero.
Yeah. So what is a mess? A mess is actually the explanation of something plus a great hero that is very close to folk, now to fairy tales. Yeah. So, or to fantasy. So Anglo-Saxons produce a mess, and this mess is Beowulf, and we see that if we go and use the scheme that we've seen with you, we'll see that it's a very unreal plot. It is set in various places on the earth, but not in England, somewhere. The character is a supernatural hero with extraordinary powers, and the focus is fighting with the unknown. So that's the key of the mess. There is something unknown, and you either fight with it, or you explain it, or you don't have books, you don't have computers. You have to explain it somehow, and that is why at that level of human development, mess was I can't say the only way of expressing your creativity, but probably one of the very few. So next, the Vikings. Who were the Vikings?
Invasion.
Yeah, that was the invasion. Who were the Vikings? Were they the relatives of the Anglo-Saxons, or they were an entirely different tribe?
They were related to the Anglo-Saxons.
Absolutely. They were related because they came from the same places, the language, they also spoke Germanic languages, so they were really close. But were the Anglo-Saxons happy about the Viking invasion?
No.
Not really. Why?
They were enemies.
Yeah, because they were like, they occupied part of the land. They wanted their own laws. They wanted their own like cities. They named cities using their own names. Obviously, the Vikings were not the happiest chance for the Anglo-Saxons. What appears at that time? What happens at that time? At that time, surely people start fighting against Vikings, and King Alfred the Great, who fought against the Vikings, he was the greatest hero in English history. So King Alfred the Great starts fighting against Vikings, and he becomes the prototype for the legends about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. Let's compare this legend to the myth. It's already a step forward. Why?
The real person is the legend.
Finally, yeah.
Existed.
Finally, probably these people existed. They are real people, yeah, because and they are like they're not dragons, they are not witches or something else. They're just people.
They're also symbols of glorious past that could be brought back.
Perfect. But at the time, it was very close, yeah, and you see that the setting is already closer because it's somewhere in England. It's already not somewhere else on Earth, but it's already somewhere in England. Yeah? And who are the characters? Which is the focus here? It's nobility,
and fighting for power.
Yeah, and it's still we can understand that these were the stories, but mostly the stories were inspired by the noble people, and probably they even existed among the noble people. So they fight for power, they fight against the enemies, and this is the life of the noble people. Then the Norman invasion. Who were the Normans?
French-speaking Vikings.
Yeah, remember they spoke French, and in this whole set of invasions, it was the most striking one because they spoke French. French became one of the 3 languages in use. French was for upper class, Latin was for church, and English was for lower classes. And that is why we have like pigs, but the meat of pigs is svinina, pork. Yeah, pork. We have cows, but the meat of cows is beef. Yeah, the same with goats or sheep, but the meat of sheep is mutton. Yeah,
mutton, right.
And that is how we can see this division in the society. Lower classes were English and upper classes were French. And we still have the legend, but the legend now is already the legend about Robin Hood. Let's compare Robin Hood to King Arthur. What's the difference?
The difference is that this time the main character fights against the rich.
Yeah, so it's already, like you see, it comes closer and closer to the ordinary person. Yeah. So already we focus on the life of ordinary people, It is very influenced by the rich people, but we are already looking at people who know the needs of poor people, who help them, and they already live in real places. And this person has the characteristics that are very close to the characteristics of the common people. So, and imagine how, what was already the way of human consciousness, so what they developed already. Now they already talk about ordinary people. So then the High Middle Ages start, and it's still French is the language of the church or of the government. So, and but finally English takes over its possessions and French language loses its possessions. English becomes popular again, and we see Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. So Geoffrey Chaucer is very often maybe like likened to Kotlяревский, the person who started writing in his native language. That was early modern English. Geoffrey Chaucer writes Canterbury Tales. They are in English, not very understandable for us, but still understandable. And if we look at the stories and if we compare them to the already existing examples, we'll see that it's not the rich and the poor. There are the different layers of society. So, and it's not only fighting. It's not only who is the hero and who is a bad person, who is the villain. It's already the emotions. Like amazingly, before, people were never interested in emotions. Like here, we can't say who was happy, who was unhappy, how they laughed, what was humor for them. No, the concept of humor appears only with Chaucer. And all these details, like all this humor, so it only appears with Chaucer. It's amazing because before, all literature was just like the events and who is over whom, who wins, who loses. So that was my presentation. We'll stop here for now. And your homework will be to look at other parts, like to look at other periods. They are Renaissance and Reformation. I just like to say Renaissance, but Renaissance is also a good word. So you understand that two pronunciations are possible. So the Reformation, Shakespeare appears. And Shakespeare, imagine, is already the inner world of a person. Like here, emotions, and now they will already start thinking about love. I love you, I hate you, I just, I'm envious, or something like this. So, and all this revenge, envy, hatred are the plots of Shakespeare's works. Then bourgeois revolution. I give here Paradise Lost by John Milton, but probably I hope that if you don't have any other example, any other good example of literary works, we can just put it off. Maybe you will think of something else. Because I don't think that Paradise Lost it's an interesting book for kids. Then with the Enlightenment, which is progress, science, and so on, we have Robinson Crusoe and Gulliver's Travels. With Romanticism, we already have Pride and Prejudice. Then Victorian literature, the world is divided into rich and poor, the class system appears, and Charles Dickens talking about poor people. and Charlotte Bronte. Lots of examples from modern literature, but we'll stop here. We'll take a couple of modern examples, and I think that will do for our course, for the next time and for meeting in Odessa. So, questions? Next time.
No.
You look through the genres, and we'll meet next time on Tuesday. I will probably send you the, do you want me to send you the links to different story plots? There are many good resources, and there you can watch very briefly what Beowulf is about, what Canterbury Tales are about. Would you like me to send?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
That will be good, yeah? So
Yeah.
I will send you very short links, like the videos that are 2-3 minutes long. And if you want to deepen, if you want to learn more, you will do it without me. But what will develop with you, and what I hope you will do with your students, is we'll connect genres with the development of human brain, like with the development of human consciousness. It's not like genre only as a genre, yeah, but we'll see this development of genres, and it will be easier for you to teach your students, because when you see this timeline, you will immediately understand what the idea is, what is the idea behind this genre. So if you have any suggestions, you don't.
Marina,
if you have any questions.
Yeah, will you send us this recording, please?
Absolutely, yeah. And I will send you the presentation as well, so that you could use it. I believe that, we all studied at the universities or institutes. And I love reading, but I never loved literature as a subject. It seems so overwhelming, like so many concepts, so many books. You can never say what is when and why. And I hope this short course will help you to see why it happened, what happened, and then you'll suddenly become an expert in English literature. Yeah. Okay, so questions?
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your thanks. Yeah, and we'll meet tomorrow on Tuesday. That's the 15th at 7. Yeah.
Thank you a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you a lot.
So, thank you. Have a good weekend, and
You too.
on Tuesday.
Thank you, Marina.
Bye-bye.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.